Mananasiduos, colleagues, and welcome back. We are resuming where we left off yesterday in second reading. Majority Leader, you are recognized.
Seduus Masi, Madam Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. Notwithstanding the House rules, I move that we suspend the rules regarding session attire to allow members to wear denim in honor of Denim Day and Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and be afforded the opportunity to speak on the motion. This is rule number section 1.02D10 of Rule 1 of our standing rules, Madam Speaker. Denim Day is a campaign that began after a ruling by the Italian Supreme Court where a rape conviction was overturned because the justices felt that since the victim was wearing tight jeans, she must have helped the person who raped her remove her jeans, thereby implying consent. The following day, the women in the Italian parliament came to work wearing jeans in solidarity with the victim. The act of wearing denim toward the end of the month has taken place for the last 25 years as the longest-running sexual violence prevention and education campaign in history. Denim Day asks community members, elected officials, businesses, and students to make a social statement with their fashion by wearing jeans on this day as a visible means of protest against the misconceptions that surround sexual violence. Sexual violence is a public health issue that affects us all, and it hits us close to home. According to the Guam Coalition Against Sexual Assault and Family Violence, every minute, 24 people who we may know are physically abused, raped, or stalked. The FBI Uniform Crime Report statistics published by the University of Guam says that the island has the second highest number of rapes per capita in the United States. There are 64.2 reported rapes per 100,000 in Guam compared to the national rate of 25 per 100,000. So, Madam Speaker and colleagues and our island community, we ask that you join us and the millions of participants around the world in honor of Denim Day to support survivors, their families, and all victims, spreading awareness and education about sexual violence. Seduus Masi.
Seduus Masi, Senator. On that motion to waive the standing rules, is there any objection? No. Seeing no objection, that motion carries. Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My motion is I want to, notwithstanding, thank you, yes. Notwithstanding the rules, I'd like to motion to place my bill number 5737 to the bottom of the agenda. Not as exciting as Senator Shelton's motion.
On that motion, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, that motion carries. All right, to proceed in the second reading, we're now on bill number 262-37LS. This bill is introduced by Senator William Parkinson. He's also the chairperson of the committee that it was referred to. So, we will resolve into the Committee of the Whole to be chaired by Senator Parkinson or his vice chair or the Senator Tello.
I'm sorry, Madam Speaker. I was raising my hands because we're still in motions right now.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I did have a motion.
We didn't. Yes, go ahead. Senator Taitzky.
Is it okay? Okay.
We're still under second reading, but yeah.
For motions, right, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to verify. Madam Speaker, I move to place a veto, notwithstanding the. Madam Speaker,
Senator,
one minute.
Would you like to move to go back to motions?
Oh,
for that.
I thought we were still in.
We
motions.
were doing notwithstanding general motions, but on something like that, I think we need to go back to motions. If you want to have that debate right now.
Okay, then I will reserve that, Madam Speaker, for later on. Since we are not in motions right now, I'll wait until we have more of our colleagues here before going back to motions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so on bill number 262, we're resolved into the Committee of the Whole.
Good morning, colleagues. This committee of the whole is in order. This is on the matter of Bill number 262-37 LS, introduced by Senator William Parkinson. I'd like to give the author of the bill the opportunity to be able to speak on the bill, and then we'll move matters after that, okay? Hang on. Okay? Senator Parkin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My colleagues, today I come before you to discuss Bill number 262-37 LS, a critical measure designed to empower the Guam Power Authority to refinance its Series 2014 revenue bonds. This legislation embodies our unwavering dedication to promoting economic stability, enhancing operational efficiencies, and safeguarding the financial interests of the ratepayers we serve. When originally conceived, this bill anticipated market conditions that were more favorable, but I've continued with the CFO of GPA that they still want to push the bill forward and that the financial analysis from the Bank of America still anticipates to realize significant savings that will be directly transferred to our ratepayers. The approach outlined in Bill number 262-37 LS is both careful and prudent, aiming to considerably decrease the GPA's annual debt service payments. Through the testimony from GPA in the committee report, you will see detailed projections highlighting the extensive benefits of this refinancing effort. This includes reduced interest rates from 5% to 4.5% and substantial net present value savings of approximately $2.6 million. Such fiscal responsibility is crucial. Moreover, it is imperative to act swiftly. The recent adjustments in the LEAC rate did not fully compensate for the projected rise in fuel costs, making it even more critical to reduce our debt service burdens wherever possible. This bill has already received the endorsement of the CCU and awaits further approvals from the PUC and GITA following our decision. Given the urgency to harness these potential savings while market conditions are optimal, I have prioritized this bill on our April session agenda. I invite and I encourage a robust discussion and welcome any comments on this legislation. Thank you for your attention and collaboration as we make a decisive move towards a more economically sound and efficient future for our constituents. With that, Mr. Chair, I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I think that for all intents and purposes, we have representatives from Guam Power Authority that's here, and Senator, who else has been invited to be able to?
We have also invited GITA and DOA.
And have we had any word as to where they're at?
They are on their way, sir.
Okay, for the purposes of wanting to make sure that we're efficient in a lot of questioning and stuff, and then I don't want to swear them in and come back and swear another set in. Why don't we take a little recess until they come in, we set them down, get them sworn in, and then what we can start to do is start the line of questioning, okay?
For GITA should be here any minute now. We
Sure.
called them about 20, 30 minutes ago. They said they were on their way, so they should be getting here soon. And DOA, let me get back to you on the timeline.
Okay.
Again, but they're on their way as well.
Okay, so why don't we give them, it's raining and everything, and they probably got stuck in the flood or something, all right? But let's give them time to come in, and then we can start with that, all right? So with that, we'll take a recess until the GITA and GPA, DOA, BBR, they're going to be here?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll take a recess until then. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Committee of the Whole back from recess. We have representatives from the Guam Power Authority as well as from the Guam Economic Development Authority. I'd like the Sergeant at Arms to go ahead and swear them in, please.
Please stand and raise your right hand. Okay. Under penalty of perjury, do you all affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. Mr. Chair, under oath, you may proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Sergeant at Arms, I think we're going to be expecting a couple more people, so I'm going to go ahead and permit, when they come in, you're just going to go ahead and swear them so then they can, when they sit down, they're already sworn in. Thank you very much. So with that, I mentioned that we have representative from GPA and GITA. I'd like to now give them an opportunity to be able to introduce themselves, and then what we're going to be doing is I will go then through some rules of engagement, and then start the line of questioning, okay? So, ma'am, we can start from...
Yes. Good morning. I'm Mary Paz Perez, Assistant CFO for Guam Power.
Good morning. My name is John Kim, CFO from Guam Power Authority.
Carlos Berdalio from the Guam Economic Development Authority.
Good morning. Tina Garcia from the Guam Economic Development Authority.
Thank you. Well, very well. Thank you very much for being here today. This is in the matter of Bill 262-37 LS. And before we start any line of questioning, I'm going to give them an opportunity to speak first, but then some rules of engagement. First off, it's going to be 3 rounds, okay? And in the first round, there's going to be, you have 10 minutes to be able to ask your questions. Your time will be, you will be clocked as you're speaking. Your mouth's moving, the clock's moving, okay? When their mouth's moving, don't worry, the clock won't be moving. So ask them short questions for long answers, all right? Second round is going to be for 5 minutes, okay? And then the third round is going to be for amendments. After the second round, we're going to release the panel and then give you time to be able to, any amendments that you may have. And then during the amendment period, okay, I'm going to be liberal, but at the same time, you're not going to grandstand. You're going to provide me your amendments and why. Okay, and if you grandstand, I will basically gavel you out, all right? And then with the line of questioning, we'll first start with the author of the bill, and then from there we'll go to the, okay? We'll start with Senator Taitigui. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to, okay? I'm going to tap you as first to go around after they're done. But first I want to give GPA an opportunity to be able to say why we need this bill, okay? So between you, Mary, and John, who would like to be able to speak? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Good morning. We're looking to refinance our bond, which is 2014 revenue bond. We have a par amount of $58.9 million. We're looking at the interest to be about 4.5%. The net present value is about $2.6 million, which is above, and the net present value savings percentage is about 4.36. This will help us reduce our debt service. So we'd like to ask for your support.
Gina, would you like to provide any opening comments? Gina? Carlos?
We agree with GPA's position with regards to the net savings and the net present value savings. At the time that we submitted the testimony, there was a change in the rates, and we got an updated analysis from GPA, right?
Okay. Can you repeat that again? Can you repeat that again, please?
When we first submitted our testimony back in April, there was an updated analysis. I believe that the gentleman is reading off now, and we agree with those numbers.
Okay, and those numbers are?
6.5 in net present value savings and 4.36% net present value savings and positive arbitrage of $147,081.
Okay. The document. So has that testimony been provided to the members of the body? Do you have a copy of the Okay, just before we get started, I just want to make sure you got all the...
Point of information, Mr. Chair, just because we heard from GPA, then we heard from Gita, can you just reiterate the number again so that we're sure we heard it right?
Go ahead, John.
Or give us a copy of what they have?
That's why I was asking, do you have a copy of it? They were both in the committee report. Why don't we do this? Let's take a little bit of a break.
Recess.
Sergeant, we can get a copy of this, okay?
Mr. Chair, motion for a moment's recess just so that we can get some documentation,
That's what I
please.
asked for.
Thank you.
Okay? Recess until we get it. Committee of the Whole back from recess. The documents from both the Guam Power Authority and GITA were all passed to colleagues so that you can review them. Now I'm going to let's start the line of questioning. Before I start the line of questioning, one of the things I also want to say is if you yield any of your time in your line of questioning, you yield all of your time during that period, okay? So if you only spoke for 1 minute and you yield 9, you yield all 9 minutes left, okay? It doesn't yield your time in the second round, though, okay? All right, so with that, the author, Senator Parkinson, you can go and start the line of questioning, then we'll go to the back to Senator Taitigui and go down the back row throughout. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the main question for me really is, when this refunding effort was first conceived several months ago, there was a greater optimism that the Fed would lower interest rates this year. But recent news has been less optimistic about that possibility. Do we still anticipate being able to achieve savings in this current market environment?
Yes, per discussion with our underwriters, we could do the refunding in July. By that time, the interest rate would be better. So you will still maintain that, some savings.
And how much is GITA charging for this bond refunding? And is that cost incorporated into the projected savings?
Yes, GITA has their fee schedules they can provide. We included those costs already into our calculation that is added to our net savings.
What was that? How much?
GITA could probably provide better answer on that one.
So GITA's fee is based on a statutory, a formula approved by your board, and the amount for a $53 million bond would be about 370. It comes to about 0.2% of the par amount.
And so what is that in dollar figures, roughly?
So for a $53 million bond, it's about 379,000, I apologize.
Scared me there for a second.
Scared myself. 379,000.
All right. And is that cost to GITA amortized over the cost of the bond? And would it make more sense to pay up front financially?
Yes, there's a section in GITA law that was passed that said the GITA fees had to be paid within the first 3 years of the bond so that it's not amortized over the 20 years.
Okay, I see. Yeah, because I think it makes a lot more sense to pay that cost up front. And, you know, at this time, I'll save my questions for later rounds.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start. Senator Taitigui, you've got the 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to my colleagues, and of course, good morning to the panel. Thank you, GPA, for being here, and for GITA, and being here to answer our questions. So some of them were asked by the author of the legislation, but I'm just going to circle back to the amount of $370,000 for GITA's fees. It says it has to be paid within the 3 years. According to you, Tina, it's at within 3 years. But there's nothing that's concrete in that. You can actually get it paid up front. Is that correct? You can pay it off in 1 year. There's nothing in there that requires you to do it in a 3-year period, correct?
Yes.
It just has to be paid within 3 years. So it could be paid up front right away, correct?
So the way it's structured is all the costs are paid up front, but the amortization of that cost is paid in the first 3 years. I'm just getting the exact statute. Yes, but what it says is that the actual payment, the cost of that will be amortized in the first 3 years, but the payment is made upfront when the bond is closed.
Right.
And that covers our monitoring for the full term of the bond.
Okay. Earlier you spoke, or I think Carlos Perdallo spoke about 147,000 that was brought up. Can you explain what that 140,000 is referring to?
That's the positive arbitrage.
And what is that?
That's the part of the savings that's, as you refund the bonds, there's a period there where the interest, you gain a positive or a negative arbitrage depending upon the rates. So this is just a projected number, and it's totally dependent upon the rates at the time of the refunding.
And you're estimating the savings of 147?
147,081.
Can that money be used to pay Gita's cost?
No, that's just a calculation of the bond sale. It's not an actual hard cost. It just talks about when you compare this debt service versus the new debt service. So it's not a cash payout.
It's just incorporated within the savings of the whole bond or
Yes.
payment. Okay.
Yes.
That brings me back to, can you explain to me, Tina, or Carlos, either, can you explain the 2% requirement by Guam law on savings for the bond, for this bond? In other words, there's a law on the books that if it is 2% less in savings, then you cannot, can you explain that, Tina? So that the listening audience can understand if this is not just done because, we're going to make 1% more or, 1.9% more. Can you explain?
Yes, so on page 3, line 14, it says the present value of debt service on the refunding bond shall be at least a 2% less than the present value debt service of the prior bonds. So basically, when you go in for refunding, you want to show savings for refunding. You don't want to go in and refund at a higher rate. You want to go in to reduce your debt service outstanding, your outstanding debt service. So it's here in this section and it's here in the GITA statute that any bond refunding would require a minimum 2% refunding, 2% savings.
And does this amount exceed the 2%?
Yes. The projected savings is about 4.36%.
Okay. Is the bond tax exempt for those who are out, when you send the bond to market? Is it tax exempt?
Yes. Government bonds in general are tax exempt.
Okay.
Government of Guam bonds itself are triple tax exempt because of our territorial status.
Okay. And the reason why I bring this up because, with all the interest rates going up, very difficult out there. Everybody's seeing that borrowing is very difficult at this point. But because of the climate and situation that we're in on these increased interest rates out in the public, how does this affect the bond borrowing for this, or the interest rates that people are looking for? Are they looking for tax exemptions? They're knowing that the interest rates are lower. Can you kind of explain what's the difference now because of the consideration of?
Absolutely. So interest rates right now are, yes, they have gone up from where we were last year around this time when they were at all-time lows. But the bonds we are refunding are already 10 years, or going to be 10 years outstanding. And so whenever you refinance a long-term financing, the front end of the bond has shorter interest rates, because those people are having less risk because they're going to be paid within 10 years. The next 10, those interest rates are higher because you're having the use of their funds for 10 years and up. So for us to go out today to refinance those monies, we're making what was supposed to be bonds from 11 years to 20 years will now come to year one, will start being paid off in year 1 to 20. So by reducing the, quote, outstanding term, I mean, we are keeping the same term, but by reducing it from a 30-year bond to a 20-year bond, that's where you see the savings. That's where investors see the savings.
That was my other question. Is this bond a term? How many years is this term? And by refinancing, are we extending that term for the Series 14S?
No, the bonds are maintaining their existing term. There is no extension.
And again, can you explain that the interest rates for these bonds are going to be staying the same, or is it going to be reflected on today's economy's interest?
So with the bonds, you're allowed to refund refund the bonds at the 10-year mark. And so that allows the investors to, that allows the entity, again, to secure a lower interest rate. It also allows the investors to cash out their investment and go in at a different interest rate. And so we do this without extending the term of the bond. And for the investors, the attraction to the Guam bond of triple tax exempt, they love to purchase Guam bonds. We're not in the market as often, and this being a smaller par amount, we expect that the high demand will help lower the interest rates.
Thank you, Tina. You know, I know this is kind of a silly question, but I have to ask it. Does the bond allow you for refinancing? This current 2014S, does it allow you for refinancing?
This legislation will allow us to refund and refinance the 2014 bonds.
When we passed the bond, the 2014 bond, did it stipulate in that it cannot be refinanced?
Yeah, we have to come back to you for that authorization to refinance.
Okay, so I just wanted to, so people know that that's one reason why we're here, because when the bill passed back in the day, 2014, it said it could not be refinanced. So, is there a reason why, you know, we put something like that into a legislation for bond financing?
I think it's just probably a spot check. You know, the legislature has to approve any financing in over a year, and so it doesn't stop you from putting an authorization to refinance it when we can achieve the minimum savings, because we've done that with other entities. But for the most part, any borrowing, whether it's for new money or refunding, we have to get legislative approval.
It's just a safety net.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Tina. To GPA, noticing the ability to refinance, why did it take you this long? Why now, only now in April 2024, to do a refinance? I mean, especially with the interest rates, when we could have gone since last year to try and do that. Or is there a reason why that we had to wait for the mark date they call in July?
Yes. This 30-year bond has a 10-year call date, and the call date is October 1st, 2024, and the earliest we can refinance is July 4th, which is 90 days from the date, the 10-year mark.
Okay, so it's time that we have the opportunity to do so when needed. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll save the remaining of my questions. I think actually I have most of them answered, so I appreciate the time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Fisher, you're up next. Nothing? Okay. Senator Joe Snogstein, you're up next. You have 10 minutes.
I'll save my question for the next round. There is another round, right?
It depends on how I feel. Yes, there is.
Okay, good. There will be another round. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'll call.
I'll save it. I'll save for then.
It's kind of scary. It's kind of scary when you have me sitting here. Senator Nicholas, you got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The federal interest rates right now are at 5%. Is that correct, ma'am? So, and anytime we get a chance to save some money, what is the rate that we're trying to get this time is 4.5? Is that correct? Yeah, and you know, I'm quite new to this, but I wanted to find out, are these bonds only for institutional investors?
Hi. No, in fact, the law requires that we offer the bonds to sell on Guam. For Guam, individuals can purchase bonds.
Yes, ma'am, because if anything, I would like the general public to, I guess, also to support the bonds, but also to reap the benefits of the interest rate. But I support the measure, Mr. Chair, and I don't have anything further. Thank you, sir.
That's it? Okay, all right. Senator Perez, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to the panel. So if you could just clarify, what amount are we borrowing with this refund amount, refunding bond?
Actually, the existing bond we're refunding is 58.9. With the new refunded par amount would be $55.5 million.
So you're saying the current amount that we have borrowed is 58.9, but it's going to reduce down to 55.5?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and that's, so basically, why is that? If you can just explain the reason why.
Hi, I'll take that. So when we go out to the bonds, and because of the demand and interest rate, you're looking at 20-year debt. And because of the competition or the desire of investors to put their money out there, you're actually borrowing less money to pay for that long-term 20-year debt. So it's just, it's kind of like the interest that you're earning will pay the investors going forward. So that's why you're actually reducing your outstanding liability by, here we're talking about $5 million.
Thank you for that explanation. And so I guess the fee that's paid to Gita, where is that money going to come from? If it's, how is that? This is for GPA, I guess. It's so because the decrease is not going to pay for the fees, where is that money going to come from?
We don't have in here is the cash inflow and outflow, but normally we would have more proceeds than the par amount. So we can use those money to pay for the fees, or we can just write a check to Gita.
Okay, so it's basically the ratepayers are paying for it. And so the debt service, when would that be realized? So my expectation is that because the amount is less, the debt service is less, so perhaps money that can be directed. So do you have any estimated amount?
Yes. The cash flow savings we're looking around is about $200,000 a year, and that is effective, it's amortized, so it's effective July 1st to 2024 to October 1st, 2024 to October 1st, the 2025. So within that period, our savings is about $200,000.
$20,000 a year.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have an idea of what the projects that are going to be used for this bond? Can you explain what the projects are being paid for?
There's no projects in it. It's purely refunding. It's just like almost remortgaging your house.
Okay.
Yes.
And so can you explain what projects are being funded with this bond? I know you're saying it's a refund, but can you just explain what this money is going towards to pay for?
Yeah, this money was already spent back in 2014. So this is like having a mortgage.
Okay.
Yeah, extending.
So it's already been spent for
Yes.
projects, okay.
Yes.
All right. And we're just paying back the loan basically at this point. So there's no unfinished projects. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So interest rates, what is the expectation? First of all, what is the credit rating for GPA? Do we expect it to improve, and would that help with interest rates prior to the refunding?
Yeah. So we have 3 credit rating agencies. We use S&P Global, Moody's, and Fitch. For S&P, we're BBB stable. Moody's were Baa2 stable, and Fitch is BBB stable.
Okay. And are those going to change, expected to change?
I don't think so, but we do have a rating presentation with them, most likely next month, or most likely June.
Okay, so that could also affect the interest rates, correct?
It can definitely help us.
Okay. And in regards to the market itself, so, you know, I think GPA provided in their testimony a graph showing the rates, the interest rates, and I guess this is the reason why the refunding bond is being presented. What is your confidence about the interest rates in this market? And is it expected to go further down? You know, what is the chances of it going lower?
Yeah, per discussion with our underwriters, and also we use Bloomberg, so they're anticipating the interest rate to actually go down by the time the refunding is available.
Okay, so with that 4.5, so currently what was the interest rate for the initial bond? If you could just reiterate that and compare it to what is expected by the time the refund occurs.
So how do I explain this one? For example, the U.S. Federal Reserve rate is about 5.5. So we're expecting back next by June, probably near early July, we're expecting to be about 5%.
You said 5%?
Yeah, 5%. This is for the Federal Reserve
So this is
rate.
by July, Federal Reserve,
Yeah,
and
yes.
then, so October is the time where the refund's going to happen? Is that the expected time?
Yes, so we're allowed to refund between July. The earliest we can refund is July, because so between July and October is the time we'll be refunding. We'll go in when the interest rate seems reasonable for us.
Okay, in the documents that GPA provided, I think they expected a 4.5 interest rate. So here you're saying you're expecting 5% by July and maybe by October it's going to be 4.5. Is that accurate?
When we did this testimony, the all-in interest rate was about 4.5. It's about, I think it's still about the same.
Okay. Tina, if you can help clarify. Thanks.
So the interest rates, yes, are tied to treasuries and how they're fluctuating right now, how the feds have been talking about bringing down the interest rates probably around summertime, so that will help us because the Fed interest rates are our benchmarks. And so what sets our all-in, what we call our all-in interest cost for this bond is how much the investors are willing to buy the bonds and at what price. So when we sold the bonds in 2014, our all-in true interest cost was about 4.3. This one is a 4.5, but again, we're reducing the liability, and we're still realizing a savings that will help lower the average debt service for GPA. So again, as the rates come down, it will help our rates come down, and as the interest in the bonds increases, again, being the only investment grade, triple tax exempt bond that investors can invest in, there's always a great demand for it. So using that, leveraging that interest, we're able to even lower interest rates further.
Okay, thank you. In the bill, it states that that the board, GITA's board shall approve the sale of the bonds. It doesn't say anything that it's tied to the 2% threshold. So would you, I think, is this bond counsel language, or is this something that we need to ensure that, when they approve it, it meets that threshold level of at least 2% savings?
The 2% savings exists in today's statute, that any refunding has that 2% savings. And we're just emphasizing it here again to ensure that that calculation is part of this.
Okay, yeah, so maybe I'll have you take a look, I'll have you take a look at the bill again, just to make sure that, we're not requiring the approval of the bonds without these checks in place. So I think the language should be really looked at. Okay. Are there any other fees that we need to be aware of that might affect the savings?
So usually whenever we do these bonds, our cost of issuance is 2% or below. And the interest rate we quoted of 4.53, that includes all the costs that are charged to the bond, all the services that are used to pay the bonds. And that will cover underwriters, bond counsel, the trustees that hold our funds, consulting engineers, any PUC costs, auditors, those are the printing of the bonds, those are all fees covered and are already included when we quote to you the final interest cost of 4.5.
Okay, great, thank you. So just one more question. Did the bond counsel review this bill?
Yes.
Okay, so the wording?
Yes, the wording is
sufficient?
from the bond council.
The whole bill?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Perez. Senator Shelton, you have any questions for the panel?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Hafaday, good morning to the panel. To GPA, can you say that the total savings from refinancing this bond will be more than the total fees for refinancing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And I wanted to ask about the Solar for All program that was announced just this week, the grant that was received by the government of Guam and the Guam Energy Office. So the Solar for All program is a $62.4 million program. It's going to enable qualified households to access solar, get these energy audits, switch to energy efficient equipment. So do you know how many residential GPA customers are going to be eligible for this program? And what is this going to mean for grid stability and any loss in revenue that GPA is going to experience?
Thank you, Senator Shelton. I don't see how
I know
that kind
we're
of
talking
question
about a bond.
has germaneness to the line question, so.
Sure, I'll get to it,
Please.
Senator Blas.
Thank you.
We just received information yesterday. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the program. I have to ask our John Cruz, our sports manager, on that one.
Okay, so the savings from this bond that we are refinancing is going to go toward what exactly now?
The savings is just going to help us minimize the cash outflow from our debt. So it's just to pay for our operations.
Okay, so operations meaning the new power plant, operations meaning lines?
The new power plant. Unfortunately, due to the typhoon, the new power plant got delayed. So we're hoping to be completed by September of 2026. So any savings will be going into the Ukudu power plant.
Okay, and since it was delayed, you're using these savings to help us get as close to the goal as possible. And how much do you think will be used toward the renewable energy goals?
Right now, we have 180 megawatts renewables. That was on bid. We currently have about 6 proponents, totaling wattage about 303 megawatts. That was the proposal received. So we'll be going through those analysis.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Shelton. Vice Speaker, sis, you have a question?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for giving me the opportunity. And I know it's 11:45 for lunch, but I just want to say that I thank the panel members for being here. I know that the other members of both GPA and GITA are the tabletop exercise for cybersecurity, so I want to thank the team for taking over and being here to help this, answer the questions for this legislation as proffered by Senator Parkinson. I did have a couple of questions, Mr. Chair, as it relates to why do you need to refund it now, and what will the savings be used, like for personal repairs and upgrade. But based on the previous questions and answering, it was, you take it like you're remortgaging a house, right? When the interest rates you're at 5% and you know that it's a point or between almost a point and more, reduced interest rates, the time is great and prime so that you can realize the savings on the total package. Am I saying that right? The realization, because as noted, and again, as when we look at the scenarios, the federal tax law restricts that tax exemption refunding, but of these bonds to close no earlier than 90 days prior to the call date, which is this year, July 2024, correct? Right, July 2024, right? And then that the refunding project, projected total interest cost is looking at 4.5, and then when we look at the savings, the present value savings based on that formula, we're looking at an overall 2.6 million, right? Something to that effect. And as we look, as you just stated earlier, the team from GPA about, operations and all that, I want to make sure that if this August body approves this authorization, you still have a layer to go through, right? And that would that be the PUC? And how long will that process take, and will we be meeting all the necessary timelines? I guess I'm asking why the bill now, right?
Oh, yes. Yes. We did inform Fed Hiroki about the refunding. So once the PUC asked us to get legislative approval, once it's completed, we'll petition the PUC for approval.
And that timeline will take how many days, usually?
They're within 30 days.
So there's enough time. So,
yes.
So it's safe to say that with this exercise moving through for this legislation, that being able to refinance, right? It's like when you're looking at a house to remortgage, right? Because you're looking at a lower interest rate, and then realizing that in the long run, on the total package, there will be a realization of a couple or several $1 million. Is that safe to say? Yes, right?
Yes, that is
Tina,
correct.
you're shaking your head, so give me a response. If you can go ahead and just confirm, verify, reiterate what I'm saying.
Yes, Senator, you're correct. Over the remaining years of the bond, you're seeing a savings in almost every year. So in total, you will see a total savings in your debt service payments.
And then based on this process and this exercise, how many bonds pending does GPA have? Is it just this one, or are there a couple others?
We do have 2 more bonds. We have the 2022 bond and a 2017 bond.
But at this present time,
We're just refunding only 2014.
Right, because it's ripe or prime to work it because it's already met that 10-year
Yes.
timeline, right?
Yes.
Which could realize greater savings.
Yes, that's correct.
And if we waited longer to approve this or didn't want to work this now, what detrimental effect will it have if we don't look at accepting this? If we didn't do anything today, what detrimental effect will it have on the process moving forward?
Well, if we don't go forward with the refunding, then you're at the same level and you're not providing any savings, cash flow savings over the remainder of the bond.
And that's over $2.6 million, almost $3 million.
Correct.
In savings, right?
Yes.
I wanted that clarification and verification so that the listening audience can understand why GPA and GITA have to go through the process, and knowing that because there is an opportunity to see a greater savings at a lower interest rate, that it is time for us to do it. Is that correct? Okay. Mr. Chair, I just wanted the verifications. I understand why it's needed, and when you can see a greater savings in the ultimate long run, then why not take advantage? And if the approval's there, it still has to go through one more step, and we hope that within that timeline, as noted by GPA, it won't take more than 30 days, so we could still meet, because July would be, this July 3rd would be, I think, 10 years, right? Right? Okay. I know, just for the listening audience, sometimes you can't just shake your head. You have to say yes or no. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I have no further questions.
Thank you very much, Vice Speaker. Senator Joanne Brown, you have the floor.
Half a day, Mr. Chairman. Certainly welcome to all of you from GITA and Guam Power Authority. I wanted to ask, with the figure here of the $212,000, is that the total amount that you're receiving, or do the fees that have to be paid on this refinancing, are they already extracted from that total, or is that the total before any of those fees are taken out?
Yes, the $211,000 we're looking at is per annum savings. This is net of any fees we incurred.
And how much are the refinancing fees going to cost to do this?
On average, it's about 2% of the par amount, on average.
How much is that?
So it's about $1 million. It'll be about $1 million for the total costs of issuance.
Okay, to refinance, it's going to cost us $1 million, and we're receiving $212,000 for what length of time then?
So the savings will be over the remaining part of the bond, which is about another, which bonds mature in 2044. So it's a 20-year bond.
Okay, and what's remaining? Is it 20 years remaining on this now from where we're at? So
that
is
is
it like
correct.
a 30-year loan altogether?
The initial bond was a 30-year bond.
Okay, so you're looking at $1 million in fees for what over that period of time is going to cost about $4.2 million, I guess, of additional savings that are going to be brought back. I mean, I certainly appreciate the need to have that if the opportunity is there, because it's otherwise money that you would not benefit from. But I did want to ask, what is GPA's plans for the $212,000 that's listed here in the GM's letter? What are you going to do with the $212,000 annually? I mean, I know in the big pot that doesn't seem like a lot of money, but to most people, you know, yes, $212,000 is a lot of money.
We're doing everything we can to pay the cost of the new power plant that's being built.
So are these fees all going to go, well, not the fees, but what you're getting refunded back, the $212 annually, is going to go towards what, the construction or operations of the new power plant?
Yes, yes, it would be for the operation of the new power plant.
is it tangible infrastructure? Is it paying for personnel or what?
Oh, we have our, so this, the new power plant is an IPP, independent power producers. So it's more like us leasing.
Yes, I understand. They're actually investing the money to actually build the.
Yes.
And I understand you guys have also come to a set rate that you will pay for the power that they're providing to the Guam Power Authority.
Yes, so we'll be allocating, so rather than, so we have a loan with the bond, we're allocating that portion of the payment to pay for the new power plant, which is almost another loan.
So is the money going to be used towards the lease payments or what?
Yes, lease payments.
So you're going to dedicate all of that to the lease payments?
Yes.
And then what's remaining? I mean, it says here in the GM's letter, you have $443 million of outstanding revenue bonds. What are the timeframes also for those bonds to expire? How many more years are you looking at? If we take out of $443 million, how much of this is the 2014 bond?
Yes, the 2014 bond right now outstanding is close to $65 million.
Okay, 65. Okay, is that 65 part of the 443?
Yes.
Okay, so be minus that. So what's remaining for GPA in terms of existing bonds? The remainder. So we're looking at 443 minus 65.
Yes. So we have 2022 bond and a 2017 bond. Okay. They all mature at the same time, all three bonds, which is 2044.
2044?
Yeah, 2044.
Okay. And what were those taken out for?
Those were refunding from 1999 bonds.
No, I understand, but the remaining of the financing, I mean, we pretty much know that the brand new power plant is being financed by the contractor.
Yes.
That's building at Korean Electric.
Yes.
That is building the power plant, and you're going to be paying a lease agreement, and Guam Power Authority already has a set rate that was negotiated. So guys, when you heard that the non-payment of the equipment and portions and parts of the power plant of the port for the good of the people, that was never part of the benefit to the public because GPA had already negotiated what that amount would be. So any savings from non-payment to the Port Authority of Guam and the ratepayers of the Port Authority of Guam did not benefit the people of Guam. Just for the record, so you're aware of that, because this was already determined and already negotiated. So your remaining bonds that I'm asking about that's going to expire in 2044, what were those taken out? Was that for your existing power plants? What was the purpose of those bonds, since pretty much the new power plant is being financed and GPA is paying moving forward over time a lease agreement? Is this for the existing power plants that you have? What was the main purpose of those bonds being taken out by GPA?
We have, Senator, that the initial bonds were to support generation projects, 56 million, transmission projects, and then control and data acquisition system. Those were the main projects for the 2014 bonds.
Okay, but what about the remainder? I understand. We mentioned a little earlier that out of the 443, we're taking out the 65. That's the 2014 bond. That's what GPA relayed. So the remainder of that is what I was just asking clarification. What did GPA take those funds out for? Because, you know, as we understand, the brand new power plant is something that's being financed and GPA is paying a lease over time moving forward. So I'm just curious what was the bulk of the bonds that were, I'm sure they were for infrastructure, but it'd be good to know what those were, just to refresh those of us that were not here, or those that are not aware.
I can give you that information. The 2017 bonds actually refunded bonds that were issued previously, again, 10 years from that. And then the last bond was also a refunding. 2022 was also GPA refunding. So I'm going to have to get back to you on what those what projects were funded.
And out of the 2014, are we just refinancing it, or are we actually refunding it and closing out on it? What are we doing with it? Are we just refinancing it again to reduce the interest rate?
Yes.
And then this will continue on till 2044?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the information. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Senator Lujan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, actually, good afternoon, panel. You know, I just want to keep it really simple. Our consumers are watching right now, and when we hear about rate increases, it's also translated as to what these increases will look like on a monthly basis. So likewise, the cost savings, the annual cost savings to this, what would it look like for the average consumer on a monthly basis then? I mean, it's a pocketbook issue for the consumer. The cost savings that this will have on the consumer, what would that consumer's average monthly bill lower to? You know, we often hear the increase of, well, it's going to be about $10 or $15 more to your power bill a month. So what would it look like, again, this cost savings on a monthly basis to the average consumer? It's very simple.
Well, we have close to 50,000 customers. So if you allocate from 50,000.
If you add, I'm sorry?
So if you divide 200,000 divided by 50,000, it's probably the annual average savings they would see.
Okay, so the average consumer pricing, what does that look like? Again, you know, whenever there's a cost increase, it's always told to the consumer, this is what the average bill will look like rise up. And so when we're talking about cost savings now, we should be able to tell the consumer how much your monthly power bill would decrease by. I mean, if we're going to increase it, we tell them roughly how much it's going to cost. Now, because this is not a LEAC situation, but again, in our operations and whatever it may be, so to the average consumer, again, how much would their power bill go down by? Very simple. The average person is not really, again, looking at whatever bonds that we have to refinance and this and that. You know, they're just saying, how much is this? How much am I going to be? How much lower am I going to pay next month? Based on this, when they go out and borrow it, they're telling me I'm going to save. Okay, so what does it look like for me as a consumer? And I'm going to pay. Is it $5 less? Is it $10 less? Because they always hear when the increase is going to come, how much you need to prepare for this increase. So now we're talking about cost savings. So we should be able to have that answer for the average consumer as well as to what would that cost savings translate to the average consumer. It's just, again.
Yes, if you're looking at mathematically, if you divide 200,000 divided by 50,000 customers divided by 12, you're looking about 33 cents.
30%?
33 cents.
33 cents. Per month.
No, per month. Yeah.
I'm sorry? Yeah. Okay, I did.
Per month.
33 cents per month. Yeah. If they apply it to the customer. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, because, again, our consumers are watching. And so we're saying these cost savings. And, okay, so what does this translate to in 33 cents? I said, okay, because when we talk about increases, you know, we're talking $10, $15 more a month. So likewise, the consumer, you know, has to be also given, you know, that information as to what this cost savings will come to them on a monthly basis. So you just said, you know, divide 30, and it's 33 cents per month. If it's applied. Okay, that's it. It's very simple. Thank you very much. And consumers now know. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Lohan. Senator Bernay, I'm going to get to you next, but It's 12:10. I'm going to give you the option. Do you want to go ahead and start your question now? Or do you want to start it after?
Wow, Mr. Chair, way to put it on me. But I think I heard some stomachs grumbling in the back, so if it would please the chair, if we could recess for lunch?
How long do you? I'm going to leave it to you. Huh?
I mean, yeah, I can ask some questions.
Okay.
That's sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess, yeah, to echo the previous speaker, I think the people watching are as much as I am, struggling to comprehend, what's really at issue here, and I get it. So we're trying to stretch out or maybe I don't, so maybe you could just clarify. We're trying to stretch out our payments and refinance this debt that we have. And by doing that, we're going to save money for not necessarily the customers, but for the Guam Power Authority.
We're not stretching out the loan. We have 20 years remaining. That 20 years remaining will remain the same. This is purely interest rate. Savings for us.
Yeah, so I guess my question is, if we're doing this now, right, and then is there an urgency, and could the ratepayers of the Guam Power Authority save more money by waiting until rates are more favorable?
This is prediction what's going to happen between July and October. After October, it's hard to tell. I don't know if you give us a better answer.
I just wanted to say that your bonds are callable at the 10-year mark, which means you can refinance for lower interest rates. And if you go beyond that 10-year, you take away the savings that you could have realized the month before, 2 months before, 3 months before. So that's why we try and do it at the 10-year mark. Yeah, we could wait till December, we could wait till January, but that interest rate environment is still not clear. They had thought, for instance, the feds were supposed to start reducing rates in their March meeting, is what people were saying late last year, but they're holding off until late summer now, which, could help us here. And that's why, your bird in hand, you know that you can achieve savings. You don't know if they're truly going to start reducing rates and to what level. And so that's why you can not do it, and then you don't get that monthly savings, or you do it now and start accumulating your savings, kind of what we're proposing here.
Ma'am, could you kind of explain the fees that the Guam Economic Development Authority will gain from this transaction? And then maybe just for the public and myself as well, like what's that money go to?
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. My apologies to Senators Parkinson and Tadegui. I had quoted a $379,000 GITA fee, but I was looking at a totals column and not the actual formula. When you plug in a $55 million bond, the GITA fee is $140,000 for the term of the bond. So earlier I had said it was over $380,000, but it's actually $140,000. Those fees help support the department's efforts, our continued work with investors. Every time something in the news happens, like when Mawario happened, we had calls from investors about the recovery. We had calls from rating agencies about the recovery. So our team coordinates that response not only with GPA, but with GWA, airport, the general government. GPA comes to the market once every 2-3 years. So I guess in putting Gita as the financial manager, our team monitors the day-to-day requirements, and GPA comes in when they need to finance or refinance. And so having one central financial manager helps to, we support all the agencies in their financing. So that's where the fees go to support the team. Right now, my team is 3 people, and for the government. And so that's hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, ma'am. And I guess for GPA, I know it was asked previously, but with the savings and then the refinancing and the new money, what are your goals and specifics on where that's going to go?
The savings, the $200,000, will be used to pay for the new power plant.
Okay, I have nothing further. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Martin. I'm sorry to place it on you, but you made the decision. Speaker, do you want to do it now or you want to do it afterwards, after lunch? Okay.
Thank you. Just to follow up on my colleague's question, so the savings, you say it's going to go towards your regular operations. It's not going to go directly to customers. You've already got the costs for the new power plant calculated and planned out. So this is not planned savings, right? So could it be used for customers instead to offset the LEAC or something?
We're doing our best efforts to minimize the rate increases. The last time we had rate adjustment was back in 2013. That's over 11 years ago. And inflation rate from 2013 to 2024 is 35.
Yeah, but the LEAC has been raising ever since, and we've also been trying to offset those with rebates or the money that we put in for savings just because of the hardship.
Yes. For us, this is for the base rate. So for the base rate, we have not increased in 11 years.
Right.
The inflation has been close to 35%.
I know, but I'm saying the cost to the customers have continued to go up tremendously.
As for the LEAC, we don't make any money on the gas.
I know, that's not my question. My question is, you're going to get the savings. You're saying you're going to use it to pay the power plant, but you were not able to enter into that contract for the power plant unless you had a plan of how you were going to pay them. So you already have a plan of how you're going to pay them. This is extra money coming in now, and it's going, if you use it where you were going to use something else, then where's that? Where's that coming from? What I don't want to see, and if you're not going to give it directly to the customers, as we asked in the last refinancing, we said directly to the customers. We were hoping for some decrease for them. And if it's not going to go to them directly, then, you know, we're going to probably be reading again about, like, so this amount that you've been able to save from your previous plans of how you were going to pay that power plant is now available to GPA to use however it wants. For example, pay raises is what we talked about before. It's what we're coming back to again. And it's like, I hope we're not refinancing this so you have extra money for pay raises versus direct. And so that's why on page 4, subsection 8, it says, savings in annual debt service payments from refunding shall be utilized specifically for the direct benefit of the ratepayers. Yeah, I would like to see that through savings reduction, because we did this in the last refinancing, and the report that GPA gave was 241 pages, and they pretty much said they just took the money and put it towards their capital improvement projects that they had already had planned. And we've seen since then, you know, the other operation expenses that, for example, raises.
Yes. Every companies in Guam also faces inflation as the nations.
Pardon?
We do face inflation issues.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and since 2013,
so is it going to be
has been 35%.
to pay for inflation? That's not what it says. It says for the direct benefit of the ratepayers.
Yes. We have now raised base rate for over 10 years now. And we didn't adjust for inflation.
I know, but that your rates were set by the PUC based on the information you gave them, and you did not give them this refinancing information because that had not occurred yet, right? So this will be new for GPA. I guess what you're telling us is that despite using our language, that this savings shall be utilized specifically for the direct benefit of the ratepayers, your argument is that whatever GPA uses it for is for the direct benefit of the ratepayers. So they will use it however they see fit on their regular operations.
Yes, we try every effort to not increase base rates, and we have done that for 11 years, ma'am. We have not asked for any rate adjustment.
I know, but the LIA goes up, right?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I guess GPA is going to repeat that, but maybe they're not hearing the customers because customers' bills are so high that they cannot pay these. They're getting to be, together with the inflation all around, unpayable. We have come in and GPA has testified in favor of us giving a subsidy for residential customers, and they have said, yes, it is needed, that they also have seen customers unable to pay their bills. So I guess I'm just saying, I appreciate the efforts in not raising the base rate, but the rates are going up nonetheless, or the costs are going up nonetheless to the consumers, and they are, becoming out of reach. So I would like to see this savings that we're going to give GPA through the refinancing go for the customer's benefit directly if possible. Can you just repeat again the total savings? So you're saying there's a monthly savings of about 200,000, 211,000?
No, this annual savings about 211,000.
Annual savings of 211,000. Annual 211,000. All right, so what's the total?
Yes, we do the present value because it's for the next 20 years. Net present value savings about 2.57 million.
So 2.57, and the total cost you just told Senator Brown is 1 million?
Yes. So the net saving of 2.5 is net of all the costs incurred.
Yeah, so it would have been 3.5 and 1 million going to costs now, right? So it's like, Gita, is this what you've seen before? This type of ratio, this type of cost to saving versus the savings? And this is your best recommendation, is that they go forward with this at this point? Is there any other way to reduce these costs?
Each time we go out, we do work to reduce the cost for the agency. The normal cost for doing any bonds in for any government municipality is usually around 2%, and that's why we put this as a placeholder. We can work with the agencies to reduce costs. I mean, we negotiate costs with investors. We negotiate costs with the bond council and the trustee, co-trustee. So wherever we can, we do reduce costs. In general, it's closing costs for any loan or financing.
Yeah, but is this 2%? 1 million out of 3 million?
So we're talking about a 55 million bond and a 2% of that.
Oh, well, I'm talking about, yeah. The cost to us is $1 million versus
yes.
the savings to us is only 2.5, right?
Yes, and that is after all costs.
Yeah.
So you're correct. It's 2.5 after all costs have been taken out.
The bill as it's written on section 2, page 2, what is the purpose of the words "on a forward basis," line 15?
So one of the vehicles that we can use for refinancing bonds, and again, this is just language we use with any bond financing. We can do a straight refinancing, which is what we're proposing here. The forward basis is if we say the rates are just so good now that we want to wait, we'll borrow money today and then close the bond 6 months to a year away. That's a forward refunding. And we did that for GPA back in 2022 when and airport in 21, when the rates were low, very low, and we knew that the Fed was talking about going up. So we locked in the investors today, even though, so for instance, if the rates were really, really excellent today, if the Feds had dropped the rates in March, then we could have gone out today, and that's called a forward refinancing because you're going beyond the three months. You close today, but you price today the bonds, but you don't actually close them until October or July, as early as July.
All right, but we're not considering that, and none of the discussion has discussed that, right?
No.
So that is not what we need to authorize for this transaction?
Yeah, the only reason why it's in there is, so it's April now. If in May rates just fall to the ground, then that would be, or June, if rates fall to the ground, then we should go into the market, get the money at that time, again, for the best interests of the people. But right now, we're just looking at a market that, no big changes in movement in the next 2 to 3 months. So, but, it's just there to provide a flexibility for GPA.
All right, and then if you can look at the words including but not limited to, same line 15, page 2, it says that the legislature approves the terms and conditions of the issuance of senior revenue bonds by GPA from time to time, including but not limited to. Are we approving by that language more than the 2014 Series A refinancing? Like, for example, are we authorizing the 2017 and the other ones that are the 3 that are still outstanding?
Absolutely not. We're limited to what the legislature puts in their in this legislation. So just to the outstanding 2014.
So it doesn't say including but not limited to refunding all or a portion of its currently outstanding 2014 Series A revenue bonds.
Yeah.
Because to me that would include any other revenue bonds that they wanted to refinance.
No, it could, but it's saying all or portion of its currently outstanding 2014 bonds only. It doesn't allow for the 17 or the 22.
Okay, you sure about that? I just want to be sure that that's what's the legislature's intent is. So why are we not, if all 3 of these are expiring in 2044, why are we not looking at those? They've been refinanced already, and it's not 10 years for them?
Yeah, the 17 had refinanced the 2010 bonds. The 2022 had refinanced the 2012 bonds. So they've already been refinanced.
Okay. Was this refinancing calculated in GPA's calculation of the payments for the Ukadu power plant? As you said, we were going to use the savings for that.
In the original calculation, we did not include it.
Sorry?
In the original, when we were signing the contract, this was not included. However, when we did the 22 bond refunding, we did include that as the cost savings.
Tina, Gita, on page 3, line 16. So this says that the refunding bonds, the present value of the debt service on the refunding bonds shall be at least 2% less than the present value of debt service on the prior bonds. That's a minimum 2%. You said you're looking at right now 4.36% less, right?
Savings of 4.36%.
Okay. And then can you just explain that language, using the yield on the refunding bonds as the discount rate?
So the yield on the yield on the existing 2014 bonds are about coupon yields about, the yields are about 3 to 4%, or around 4%. So the new yields will be about 3.75. And so we're saying that the difference will be used calculating the 2014 bonds at the 5% versus the proposed 24 bonds at the about 3.5 to 4% bonds.
And what's the difference?
So the difference between the rates, I mean, you're looking at reducing, I mean, it's what we were saying, the rates will go from, let me look at this. So the average coupon for the new bonds yield will be about 4.88% is what we're proposing. So again, that's what we're using on the average coupon of the refunded bonds, whereas today they're at 5%. So the difference between the two is about a 12 basis points between the old and the new bonds. So the existing bonds are providing yield of 5%. The new bonds will provide a yield of 4.88.
All right. But that's less of a difference than if this phrase was not included, right? Like you earlier calculated a 4% savings of.
Right. I mean, the savings, when we quote savings, it's savings over 20 years.
All right. And so then the way this is structured, is there a higher amount of savings in the first year than the other years, or a lower amount? I guess I'm looking at this chart. The average annual savings is the same. It varies a little bit in the years between 2025 and 2044, but in 2024, that's just because prorated because of the month we're in.
I believe we're pushing for uniform savings, so that total amount divided by the 20 years.
Okay. And this graph on GPA's testimony on page 2, it says the average annual savings is $211,000, and then That's how they calculated the 2.6 million, 2.59 million? Okay, and then,
Present value.
all right, because there's another amount where they talk about 304,558.
Oh, yes, that was a typo error. We went back and replaced it with 212.
Okay, all right then. All right, and so Gita recommends this. This should be done in July, and that is, there's no other way to reduce the cost based on what you're looking at, and that this is going to be the best we're going to get is this $2.5 million savings and $1 million in costs.
We quote the 2.2 million, or the 2 million savings, just to be conservative. We expect to come in a lot strong, offer more savings, but we won't know that until we go to the bond markets. This allows us to refinance as early as July, but if we say the feds are actually lowering the rates in August, then we'll refinance in August. But you know, it just gives us that flexibility to refinance, and we always push to maximize the savings.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Okay, guys, that's the end of round one. We're going to go ahead and take a lunch break, and I'm going to be miser about this thing. We'll be back at 2 o'clock so we can continue round two, and because we got a tight schedule that we're going to deal with, okay? So recess until 2 p.m. Thank you very much.